there. This is Christine Collins with Transform Create. I am your creativity consultant, NLP practitioner, and hypnotherapist. And I wanted to share with you today a tip for the day regarding if you are in the process of sharing something that you've been working on for a length of time. It may be something that you're creating, something that you're writing. It could be a big picture project like a webinar or a book or a new program that you've been working on, and you're just in the process of kind of getting it out there to the world. And oftentimes, and I've experienced this myself, just as we are on the brink of putting our thing out there, in comes all of the worries and the doubt and the what if they don't like it, and what if it isn't good enough? What if it's not as good as I think it is? Or you're even looking at it going, it's not as good as I remember it being. And along the way of putting it out there into that creation process, there is some hesitation, a little bit of doubt, a little bit of maybe I'll wait one more month, maybe I'm not quite ready for this. And sometimes it's rather puzzling what's really going on here, because there is certainly a part of us that really wants to do this and has been working so hard at getting this just out there to the world, and yet we're not doing it. Why? So I wanted to share with you a little bit of insight about that in case you find it to be helpful. Okay, so there's this thing called the subpersona, and essentially all it is it is a micro particle of yourself. And these little pieces tend to kind of break off as a result of trauma. And when I talk about trauma, I realize that I could be referring to kind of larger scale life-altering trauma, but there's also all of these little micro traumas that we experience along the way of our life experience. You know, that little boy in kindergarten who you had a crush on and you wrote that love letter to, and then he never looked at you again or talked to you again. That's a micro trauma. You experienced rejection. Or that time when you posted about something in 15 different groups and not a single person commented or liked something that you shared with the world. That's kind of like a micro trauma too, because you're experiencing disappointment on some level, contributing to that overall picture of self-doubt and hesitation. Oh, I don't want to experience that again. And the subpersona is merely a small part of yourself that is ultimately trying to protect you and keep you safe from experiencing those kinds of rejections ever again. And a lot of times it's kind of there beneath the surface. You know, every once in a while we may become aware of it as we're in the act of putting forth our creation to the world. It can be intimidating to do so, and all of those little rejections and micro traumas sort of flit up to the surface there, and sometimes cause what we also refer to as self-sabotage, where instead of getting that thing out there to the world, we're cleaning the kitchen again, or we're reorganizing files again, or we're updating the website, and there's really no need to do that right now. The thing that we want to be focusing on, we just aren't. And that's where the subpersona comes into play. So what do we do about it? Well, the first piece would be to recognize it. So you can kind of notice these things coming to the surface as you pay attention to your thoughts and the things that you're focusing on as you consider taking that risk, making yourself vulnerable, putting yourself out there. Start to notice and pay attention to your thoughts, and realizing that your thoughts are very extreme in the sense of using words like always, never, you're never good at this. You'll never be able to do this. Other people are really good at this, but not you. Or you always do this. You know, why do you always do this? Every time you try to create something, you always hold back. There's these very critical overtones to the thoughts. And that's where you can kind of hone in on the subpersona coming into play. So what to do about it? After you recognize it and identify it, you can give that subpersona shape, almost like it's its own little mini personality. This is the part of you that has split off due to the micro trauma, the rejection, and you can give it a name, you can give it form, you can give it shape, texture, color, size. You can visualize it as a tangible object that you can now have a conversation with. And most helpfully, and thirdly, is to give it a task. So now you can assign that little subpersona, that little part of yourself that's just trying to keep you safe, some aspect of what you are trying to create. So for example, if your goal is to create a webinar, you can assign that subpersona the task of focusing on some of the content to make it really slam dunk amazing content so that you are less likely to experience rejection. So essentially what you're doing is you're reassigning its focus, which so far has been to stop you up in that process, preventing you from moving forward and taking that risk of rejection, giving it a new assignment, a new task, a new way to help keep you safe through the art of making sure that your content is really slam dunk. So that's just a little micro piece. I hope you found it to be helpful. And once again, I'm Christine Collins with Transform Create, and I hope that you have an absolutely magical and creative rest of your day.